It is 6:31, and I call the December 14, 2021 regular meeting of the Franklin County Planning Commission to order. Before we get into the meeting, I will turn things over to staff to discuss the meeting format.
Thank you, Chair. Am I coming through?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. So tonight's meeting will be conducted through a hybrid, in-person/virtual meeting platform. Should an individual planning commissioner become unexpectedly disconnected, please rejoin the meeting at your first opportunity. The record will reflect your attendance at the meeting. The reason I'm reading all this is we have one of our planning commissioners calling in, not here in person. The meeting will be paused for up to 10 minutes to address technical difficulties. If they cannot be resolved within 10 minutes, then the meeting will proceed so long as a quorum of planning commissioners are present. If you are watching online through YouTube Live and wish to comment or need clarification on a public hearing item, please send us an email at planninginquiry, all one word, at co.franklin.wa.us before the public comment period closes. Once public comment period is closed on said item, comments will not be included as part of the discussion. Thank you.
Will planning staff please call roll and announce whether we have a quorum?
Melinda Didier.
Here.
Mike Vincent.
Here.
Leighton Lowe.
Here.
Mike Corrales.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Will staff in attendance please introduce yourselves?
Derek Broughton, Director of Planning and Building.
Rebecca Gilly, Planning and Building Services Administrator.
Aaron Gunderson, Planner 1.
Everybody choosing.
Ryan Nelson, Planner 1.
Leighton's got the popular mic over there.
And you have Jennifer Johnson on the phone. I'm a civil attorney for the county.
That's it?
Pledge of Allegiance, yeah.
Okay. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Lowe and seconded by Commissioner Vincent. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the October 5th, 2021 meeting.
I'll motion to approve minutes. For what?
Second. It has been moved and seconded. It has been moved by Commissioner Lowe and seconded by Commissioner Vincent. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. It is now time for the public hearing portion of our meeting. Good evening and welcome. I will turn things briefly over to our staff host who will go over the ground rules for tonight's hearing.
Here are the ground rules for tonight's hybrid hearing. All speakers will be called upon individually during the public testimony portion of the hearing, giving their name for the audio record, as well as if they are in favor, neutral, or against the proposal. All comments and questions shall be addressed to the Planning Commission and should be relevant to the application and not be of a personal nature. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to provide testimony. Please avoid repetitive comments. If there are a large number of speakers who are part of a group or organization, Please select a representative to speak on behalf of the group. Behavior such as clapping, booing, hissing, or remarks is prohibited. Every citizen here tonight should have the opportunity to testify without such distractions.
Are there any questions regarding the public hearing ground rules? Turning for a moment to our commission members, let us keep in mind that we are prohibited by law from communicating with members of the public on the subject matter of these hearings except in these hearings. We also may not participate in a discussion in which there is an appearance of conflict of interest to the average person. So let us take a minute to consider as to the matters which are before us for hearing today. Whether we had any ex parte communications, whether we have any ownership interest in the properties, whether we have any business dealings with proponents or opponents of the matters, or whether we have business associates or immediate family who may either be benefited or harmed by a decision in these matters. Are there any commission members who have a declaration at this time regarding any of these items on the agenda? Let the record show there were no declarations. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would object to any commission member hearing any of these items on the agenda? Let the record show there were no objections. The order of the hearing will be as follows. Planning staff shall provide a staff report. The commission may ask questions of the staff. The applicant or applicant's representative's presentation. 3, public testimony. First 4, then against or neutral. 4, final staff comments. 5, clarification of public statements that occurred during the testimony portion of the public hearing. 6, close the public hearing and planning commission discussion of the proposed action. Are there any procedural questions before we begin the public hearing? Take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 1 is a public hearing for file conditional use permit 2021-13, a proposal to request the conversion of an existing single-family home and farm property to be used as a residential therapeutic group home for abused youth, including equine therapy. You needed, did you already open it? You need to open the public hearing, I declare. You already did that? Yeah. Did I miss that? You didn't open the public hearing. So I've already read the introduction.
That's okay. I declare the public hearing for CUP 2021-13 to be open.
At 6:39.
May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Okay. So as mentioned, this is a conditional use permit or CUP for a proposed restorational home for abused youth. So, and this is requesting the conversion of an existing single-family home and property. There are 3 proposed phases, with each phase adding 6 additional beds for a total of 18 beds on the site. Phases 2 and 3 are proposed to be completed as need and funding provides. Phase 1 would be basically a remodel or modification to the existing house to accommodate the 6 youth. Property's address is 2513 Alder Road. It's approximately 800 feet east of Alder Road, bounded to the west by active farmland and crop circles to the north, south, and east. Parcel number for the property is 124430075. And the current use of the site is as a single-family residence with outbuildings and an active farm operation. Right. Yeah, okay. So, Highlighted in yellow, this is the property. I'm gonna, next slide, there's a close-up in the staff report, so let me go back to this one. Hit the button. So right here is where the residents and outbuildings is kind of clustered right there. Access comes in from here and then goes up right between the two property lines and over like that. And like I said, it's an active, with crops, row crops of some sort. Proposals for a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year residential therapeutic staff residential home for exploited youth, providing counseling and other required services to the residents. As mentioned, Phase 1 is to remodel the existing residence. Equine therapy is proposed on the site. Direct supervisory staff will be provided 24 hours a day in 3 shifts of 2 to 4 people. Staff does not live at the facility. Phases 2 and 3 are to build residences similar to the existing house on the property as need and funding allow. Each phase will accommodate up to 6 residents and required space for the supervisory staff. And that's not going to do me any good. Property is approximately 20.01 acres net. Existing residence is an approximately 3,487 square foot structure with approximately 1,937 square feet of living space, approximately 920 square foot attached garage, and then about 630 square feet of covered porch. There's an existing 2,400 square foot barn storage building and another 1,440 square foot barn storage facility or building. Sorry, I got a weird pinch in my neck there. Existing structures are connected to an existing residential private well. The site has an existing septic designed to accommodate the existing residents and other existing structures. Undeveloped portions of the property are proposed to be leased for continued ag uses. As mentioned, the property is approximately 20 acres. I'm not going to go through all of the square footage again. Comp plan designation for the site is agricultural, and it is outside the city of Pasco UGA. The current zoning is agricultural production 20 or AP 20. There are no critical areas mapped on the site. The request is for a conditional use permit, and the SEPA determination was a determination of non-significance or DNS. These are the applicable standards associated with what the applicability of this proposal is being weighed against. Does it meet the county zoning, county codes of AP 20, the requirements of the special permits, the requirements of the State Environmental Policy Act, 1804, our comp plan. It will need to meet all the health rules and regulations. And then, as stated, under Washington State law, group care facility, it's various definitions and requirements. Sometimes people call them, there's a lot of different names and stuff. Staff's review of the WACs, literature produced by DSHS and the Department of Children and Youth Family Services. This facility would likely be classified by those agencies as a staffed residential home. And an SRH will not be licensed to serve more than 6 children. That would include any children living in the location that are not actual part of the care. So if there were 2 kids living there, they'd only be able to have 4 outside residents. And then there's a requirement for at least 1 direct care staff person for every 6 use. License required from DCYF includes the inspections to ensure the facility meets the state license requirements before such a license is approved or renewed. DCYF is now the authorizing and licensing agency for these types of facilities. About a year or 2 back, it was DSHS, but that changed like I said, about a year or two back. Staffed residential homes can be either secured or non-secured. This proposal is for a non-secure facility where the residents are there on a voluntary basis. They're not forced or court ordered to go to that facility. So it's considered a non-secure facility such that they don't have to keep them there by court order or some other declaration or limited circumstance. Non-secure facilities must have security that discourages or limits the likelihood of resident youth running away. But each facility is going to have different requirements as required by DCYF based on the specific population being served. You know, different issues require different responses, which would be established by the state agency providing the license. Residents reside at this facility on a voluntary basis, meaning they are not court ordered nor forced to reside there. This is a general site plan of the proposal. This is the existing developed area right now. As I mentioned, you come in, this is Alder Road. North is this way, so it's kind of sideways, so I apologize for that. Otherwise, it would have been really small. So there's, I'm sorry, that's not Alder Road. This is the easement that connects to Alder Road, which is about 800 feet this way. That's the access drive going onto the property. That's that facility. Phase 2 is proposed to build a second structure here. Phase 3 is to build a second or a third structure there. So 14 public comments were received by the November 19, 2020 due date to be included in the packet. 3 comments were received against the proposal and 11 in support of the proposal. Since then, an additional 32 comments have been received. 31 of those comments were in support of the proposal. 1 comment is against. Comments against the proposal cites concern regarding the site's location, risk to the community, security of the facility, and impact to property values, among other concerns. Another, and I realize I have impacted property. There's a concern about change of character of the area as well. We're expressing those comments against. Comments in support of the proposal cite the experience of the applicant in providing the services, the community need for the services, how these services benefit the community, and how the location meets the needs of those being served. Fire District 3 commented that, as is the case with all properties in Franklin County, they need to comply with all fire code requirements. Benton Franklin Health District stated that the proposed use can be accommodated on the site. The Department of Ecology provided a standard comment response regarding the hazardous and toxic waste reduction program. Not sure exactly the relevance of that comment, but it is what it is. Public Works stated the proposal will not have a significant impact on county transportation facilities. And then BBEC, Big Bend Electric Cooperative, stated that the applicant will need to coordinate with them regarding supplying power to the proposed phases 2 and 3. So this is the analysis used by staff to come up with its recommendation. This facility is focused on maintaining an ag appearance and look as part of the therapy practice. And the undeveloped portions of the property will continue to be used for ag-related purposes to release. And then there's an equine therapy facility proposed. Group homes, group care facilities, both are listed as unclassified uses, meaning they may be permitted in any zone, provided they are not specifically prohibited through the issuance of a conditional use permit, and they are not specifically prohibited in the AP 20 zone. At a minimum, the facility will need to be licensed through DCYF process to ensure it complies with specific requirements for the specific types of services to be provided to the population being served by this facility. And however, or not however, but In addition, requirements for security, whether the proposal meets requirements associated with staffing levels, hours of service, fire suppression services provided, are under the purview of the state agencies such as the Washington State Fire Marshal, DCYF, and the Washington Department of Licensing. What I mean when I state that is that these are, of course, the minimum requirements would be established by those agencies, and the determination as to whether or not the facility, should it be approved to site there, meets their requirements in order to open its doors. Each phase of the proposal adds 6 beds for a total of 18 beds. Phases 2 and 3 will each involve building new residents on the property that will each be considered a new home. Each of those homes will need to be independently approved and licensed by DCYF and other relevant agencies before they can be occupied. Therefore, there's no conflict with the limitation of 6 use per home for a staffed residential home. In addition to this is some questions or calls came in regarding a concern that when a facility is considered a nursing home or a school or other similar types of uses, the use of at least pesticides, but other, I'm assuming, agricultural chemicals can be restricted such that they're not allowed to be applied within 1,000 feet of the, I don't know if it's property or the actual structure. However, that's not the case here. These are not considered schools or those types of facilities such that they would be granted that protection. These are considered residences. Under state law in Washington, if a facility, and it doesn't really matter the population served, whether it's seniors, people that just have special needs, rehabs, facilities, whatever, if they're 6 or less, it's treated as a residence. The only reason this is a CUP is because of phases 2 and 3. So because of that, it also doesn't get to have it both ways. You can go for like a school or you can go for like a residence, but you can't go for a residence and then have the protections of, so long story short is this property would not have that 1,000-foot buffer requirement associated with regard to spraying and things like that. It's not considered a school. It's a home. It's just a home that happens to be owned by a nonprofit and that has 6 unrelated, probably, residents. These types of things. So you have to pick a path. You pick one path. You have higher standards you can meet, and you may have additional protections. Other path, you're treated like a home, then you're treated like a home. And with all the pluses and the negatives associated with that potentiality. This is a right to farm area, therefore farming activity that is done as it is normal or proper to do are allowed to continue and would not be at potential risk of suit from or anything like that as long as they do what is normal farming activity. So based on this, staff has determined that the proposal does not conflict with local, state, or federal regulations. The planning department supports a recommendation to allow for this application to be approved with conditions, provided all requirements for DCYF licensing of the facility are met. And these are if the planning commission desires to forward a positive recommendation, this is staff's recommended findings of fact. So, do you want me to read these or? Okay. So these are all findings of fact associated with the first finding of fact, supporting information. 2, will not adversely affect public infrastructure. Proposal will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing, as mentioned, there's a right to farm area. They intend and they want farming as part of the environment. And they're going to be leasing out the undeveloped land. And they're going to be providing equine therapy, so there's going to be, animal husbandry and things like that going on in the facility as well. Property is large enough to accommodate the proposed use, and the location and height of the proposed structure and site design will not discourage the development of the permitted uses on property. I've already kind of gone over that a few times. If there's anything there, okay. Operation in connection with the proposal will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, fumes, vibration, dust, traffic, or flashing lights than it would be operation of any permitted usage within the district. And the proposal will not endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare if located where proposed. And then here's 7 of the 16 suggested conditions of approval. Lot must meet all applicable usable land area requirements for the Board of Health rules and regulations number 2. Any alterations to the approved site plan will need to be reviewed and approved by Benton Franklin Health District prior to approval or issuance of any building permits. All proposed modifications to the existing structures require a building permit. Facilities must meet all licensing requirements of DCYF and other relevant licensing agencies. The use on the entire property is limited to 3 residences accommodating no more than 18 residents, plus staff levels required to meet the requirements of a DYCF. Oops, it's DCYF, sorry. Flip those. Define staff residential home and full build-out. Any increase in either the number of residential structures or the total number of residents shall require an amendment to the conditional use permit at a minimum. Needs to meet all the fire. The barn and other structures on the property will be built as residential personal storage structures. The use of said structure for equine therapy will require an on-site inspection by Franklin County Building Department and Fire District 3 to determine if modifications are needed to meet the requirements of the 2018 IBC and the 2018 IFC. And that's because you just never know. Some of those facilities are just spot on, great, there's no issues, they'll pass through flying colors. Others, not so much. And that's going to be a determination by the building department and the fire department to determine if it meets that or if it needs some improvements for safety reasons. And the COP is not transferable to another party or property. If it were to be transferred to another organization or propose different use or even population, it would need to come back for review through a conditional use permit. And that's staff's recommended motion. Happy to answer any questions.
Does any commissioner have questions of staff? Does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak?
I do.
Just come up to the mic, state your name and address.
Yeah, hang on one minute.
Hold
Just on
up.
that egress road coming up to Auburn,
Uh-huh.
how do you get in, how does that, how do you come off Auburn onto that,
I'll show you.
that egress?
Come on. There. So, watch your eyes. I don't want to shoot you in the eye. So what happens, here's Alder, yeah, it does that turn, and then it's right here. This is the main. So that's the main connection, and that's that 30-foot easement we saw on the site plan that was running. So this is oriented this way, or the site plan was,
That's Taylor Class down
had
there.
north this way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Blue line to the bottom page is Taylor Class, right?
This?
Yeah,
No, that's Alder.
that's all.
Yeah. So Alder comes over, turns north, and then goes like that. So they would come in here, and then that That right there is the access, and then it cuts in like that, and that's where the structures are.
So Taylor Flats is the top, just east of Taylor Flats.
That's 395.
No, it's Glade.
Or not- Thank you, it's Glade. I do that all the time. It's Glade right there, yeah. What's that?
No, that's 395.
Taylor
That's the
Flats-
freeway.
That is 395?
Yes,
Okay,
yes it
okay.
is.
I apologize.
This property is east of Taylor Flats.
Okay,
Okay.
pretty
All
significant.
right. Okay, thanks.
Ready?
I have a question. This is Melinda Didier.
They wait until the tornado's up.
Go ahead, Mindy.
Thanks. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. My question to staff just has to do with the future phases. If, you know, they do the future phases, it'll all be on a single parcel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If
She's
some-
asked
you
whether
know-
or not the three phases would all be on the same parcel.
And so, given that, if, you know, they decide not to, or they outgrow their location, or they decide to locate someplace else, or they're just, you know, not providing this service any longer, and they discontinue this use there, then would it have to be, I mean, how would that work for if the property owners wanted to sell it to, you know, it would have to be used as a facility, because we would have like 3 residences on one parcel.
Well, it'd be handled pretty much the same way as a party that decided to build up to 4 residences for family or permanent hired help, and then they decide to shut down the farm. We have that.
Oh, I see.
Through the code allows for, in the AP 20 zone, up to 4 structures for permanent hired help and/or farm family, basically folks living on and helping on the farm that are family members. No,
Oh,
that's not what the question was. She asked how it would handle. I'm sorry, she was asking how, let's say this is approved, they do phase 2 and 3, and then at some point decide to no longer do this. What do you do with those structures? And that's the answer. It's the same thing that a guy who is running, or a gal, a person who is running a farm, who built housing for his family or permanent hired help on the property, and he decides to sell the farm. What do you do with those structures? The same
So basically,
thing.
what you're saying, Derek, is that the current zoning allows for this anyway.
It allows for the structure type and not necessarily the occupancy, and hence we're in a conditional use permit process. If it were
Okay.
permitted by right, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
It would just
So that-
be, we would just process it administratively.
That was just my question, was just that making sure that, you know, that the current zoning, as far as, you know, having those additional phases, those additional houses built on that one parcel, that, you know, it wouldn't be something that would create a problem moving forward down the road if this was no longer the use. So you answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was wondering, will each one of these phases have their own well, their own septic?
My guess, I don't know though.
We're not here to guess.
No, I can't tell you because it's not our purview.
It's on the application.
Whatever's required by the health department.
I was going to say, if it's up to, it would be determined by the health department at the time of application for the second phase. So, farm, then there's farm exempt wells, I don't know much about that, but I believe that can accommodate up to 4. But I don't think, that's what I said, I don't think that would necessarily apply here. So it's going to be a matter of, I would assume, the flow rate of the existing well, those types of things. As it is, I'm pretty sure that the septic is going to have to be expanded because I believe it's a 4-bedroom home right now. They're looking to add 2 bedrooms to the existing structure, so, or at least it's going to have to be reviewed. I don't know what size tank's in there, but the health district may require them to expand that or modify the existing septic to accommodate the 2 extra rooms.
May I speak to that?
Just a minute. I'm,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I have something to add.
but yeah, you're perfectly welcome once it's your chance.
Oh, okay.
The reason for asking it is normally when we see something like this, subdivision or whatever it says, each residence will have its own well or its own septic or whatever. But they're all sharing a well and they're all sharing a septic system. In my mind, that makes it all one facility. Then the 18 people are going to exceed the 6 per facility or per residence.
Right.
That's just my question.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is we don't make that call. That's up to the health district at the time of development. My assumption is
The
that,
district know what we're giving a conditional use for is no more than
Yes.
6 people.
yes. Yeah, they were provided an opportunity to comment, and they will, at each phase, be required to go to them to get final approval. All we have right now is a rough mock-up location of where the proposal, 2 and 3 would locate. Until they actually submit the actual application, we can't be 100% on what it is that they're going to need specifically.
Any
Anything
more?
else from me?
Okay, go ahead.
To follow up on that, we.
Name and address first.
Lauren Sharp, 2603 Willowbrook Avenue, Richland, Washington. Before my presentation, I'd like to follow up on a question. Our total project was submitted to the health department before we filed any application, and the project was determined to handle the project site to handle each phase 1, 2, and 3. Each phase 1, 2, and 3 would have its own septic system and own well
Okay.
as required by the health department.
Okay.
So it was
To the well.
we're totally aware of what might be required, we're totally in compliance. Good evening, I'm an applicant representing Mere Ministries on this conditional use permit. I'm also one of the many volunteers that have come alongside the well-qualified professional staff of Mere Ministries. I've lived in the Tri-Cities for over 65 years and have been self-employed here for 47. My father before me and his father before him chose this area to live and work in. I guess some in this room have been here longer or know somebody who has. I know that everybody in this room knows somebody who is bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, and better looking than me. But that's not the point. We're here to discuss the conditional use permit, Mere Ministries Restoration Home. In my 47 years of self-employment, I've participated in all phases of land development, zone change, conditional use permit, land unit development, short plat, residential subdivision, commercial subdivision, and the construction of commercial and residential buildings. 2 things come to mind regarding these past experiences. We as people are often afraid of unknown and of change. If we don't know the answer, we fill in the blank with theories. A great deal of opposition and can be mediated or completely eliminated by hearing the facts. This evening we hope to address any misinformation and to present a complete understanding of our proposal. To this end, a few statements. Mere Ministry knows and agrees with the right to farm provision of Franklin County. Number 2, we are not going to build any structures that are not compatible with the neighborhood. Number 3, we listened carefully to the Commission's comments in our 2019 conditional use permit request and have applied that input when choosing this property. We are going to continue to farm the land. Phase 1, no farm land will be taken out of production. Phase 2, only pasture will be affected with a little over 1 acre being used for replacement of a 6-bedroom house. Phase 2 will be built as there is need and funding available. Phase 3 will be possible when Phase 1 and 2 are at capacity. Phase 3 will require approximately 2 acres of farmland removed. We at Mere Ministries respect and appreciate our neighbors and their way of life. We're dedicated to being good neighbors. I'm proud now to introduce co-founder and executive director of Mere Ministries, Tricia McFarland, who will represent Mere Ministries tonight. Are there any questions directly? Okay, go ahead.
We work as a team because different knowledge bases there, sorry. I'm Tricia McFarland, 1160 Talmadge Avenue, Richland, Washington. Okay. It sounds like here, it's not here.
It is.
Barely.
It ain't very loud.
Will this help?
Yeah, Melinda did send a text saying that she couldn't hear, that if they could get closer to the microphone.
Okay.
Do you want his printed statement for those who couldn't hear? Okay. Tricia McFarland, 1160 Talmadge Avenue, Richland, Washington. I'm the executive director at Mere Ministries, and thanks for having us here tonight and hearing our petition. Mere Ministries is a local nonprofit supported by our community members, by businesses, and by local churches. We work out of the Mere Ministries Outreach Center in the heart of Kennewick. We were founded in 2014. We've been doing this work and helping over 350 people in our community find freedom from sex trafficking in that time. And more than freedom, we've helped them find therapeutic healing needed to restore their lives. A question on a lot of people's minds is, why does Mere Ministries think that we need homes outside of the Tri-Cities for girls who've been sex trafficked? And ideally, we seek to place these survivors we work with in restoration home programs specific to the trauma that they've faced. And there's just very, very few of these homes available in the nation. We have a couple of programs here in the state that we can send the adults that we work with to, but nothing for our kids, nothing that's specific to sex trafficked minor girls in Washington State at all. We have to send our kids, our local kids, clear across the country to get hope and help in a restoration program if there happens to be space in one of the 25 programs located throughout the country. The need is huge, but our community has the opportunity and the ability to meet that need for some of these kids through this project. Mere Ministries founders, myself included, have spent nearly a decade researching the best practices for treating these kids that have been sex trafficked. Institutional style care or facilities are not effective in that long-term healing. We visited other homes throughout the nation and determined how to best serve these kids. The brain can heal from trauma. The brain can heal from addictions. The brain can heal from past, but it just needs a safe, loving, therapeutic environment, time, and the right place to do it. Our research has shown that a property with some acreage a little ways out of town is the best practice needed for this needed environment. We look forward to moving into this agricultural community and being a part of it. We are planning to continue to farm from the current fields on the property. This also leaves plenty of land for play space and gardens and horse pasture that's already in place there. The homes, as stated, would be licensed through DCYFS as a staffed residential home. DCYFS sets standards for how these homes are set up and run and audits the compliance regularly. We will ensure that those standards are met and implement other best practices that have worked in other locations. These will be loving, beautiful, family-style homes where the girls are surrounded by a therapeutic environment 24/7. Everything from the color of the paint to on the walls to the horses for the equine therapy in the barn. All of that's going to be there to create the most loving, therapeutic environment for the kids that we can. We intend to bring healing to the heart, soul, and mind for these kids. The girls are going to be doing online school at the site with a tutor. They'll have an array of interesting therapeutic services and activities to do to keep them busy and offer that healing. Their counselors will be there on staff and readily available. Mere Ministries is part of several national affiliations that share most promising practices and research to bring the most therapeutic services to this population. The staffed residential home model that we're looking at is at the top of the list of those best practices. As we got started, we created strategic planning teams to research and plan for the home for minor girls. The property team, one of those, is comprised of realtors, businessmen, and contractors, and they've spent several years looking throughout Benton and Franklin counties to find the best fit for our needs, and this property is the one that fits. Mirror Ministries has been operating our community-based survivor services for 7 years. In that program in Kennewick, we serve anyone of any age, any gender, any background, any life circumstances that's been commercially sexually trafficked. Our Mirror Ministries Outreach Center is located right in the middle of Kennewick, and yet the public doesn't know where we are. The property values have not been affected, the crime rates have not been affected, and the safety of our neighbors has not been affected. We have never, in those 7 years, had a viable threat at the Outreach Center or to our staff regarding the people that we work with. The Outreach Center in Kennewick and Restoration Home in Pasco will be separate programs and remain that way as the best fit for those purposes. The community-based one needs to be there in the middle of town. The Restoration Home needs to be separated out in a calmer environment. The Restoration Home will have a much smaller, specific, and selected group of residents. A minimum of 2 awake staff at all times, and generally during the day there's going to be 3 or more staff working with the girls. Each child themselves will be carefully screened to be sure that we are able to meet their needs. We are not a drug rehab center, we're not a jail, we're not a medical facility, and we're not a mental health hospital. So anyone needing those extreme forms of care are going to be referred and assisted in finding the right placement for those needs. A nationwide survey was completed in 2019 that noted, amongst those agencies doing these restoration homes nationwide, that noted we just don't have the issue that we all imagined over the years. We imagined the traffickers coming after their girls. What's happening is they're not. They don't come after them once they're someplace safe. Over the last decade, there's been only a handful of times that a trafficker has appeared at a restoration home. Those were an instance where they were called by a girl, drove up into the driveway, picked up the girl, and left. That was before best practices were put in place, where a new girl in a home does not have access to phones or computers to make that access. And throughout the nation, there has not been one violent incident reported nationwide. The risk factors are not what we imagined. Personally, my name, my home address, my phone number, just about anything you want to know about me is public record as a founder and executive director of Mirror Ministries. In the decade that I've been doing this, far before we even started Mirror Ministries, we have never ever had a threat at our home or to myself, even though we've been part of bringing 350 people freedom from sex trafficking here in the community. The traffickers simply don't care enough about the girls to risk their own freedom by coming after these kids. And as stated in the staff report on 6C, quote, the Franklin County Sheriff and independent studies state that there is not an increased risk to the public safety in regards to these types of facilities. The children themselves are also pre-screened to be sure that they'll benefit from our program. As is best practice nationwide, we'll only take the girls who test clean from drugs and are wanting to be in a home in a program, therapeutic program like ours that we're offering. That they've made a commitment to that time to heal from the abuse that has been done to them. The girls will typically stay 1 to 2 years in the program before they're ready to transition into a healthy lifestyle in their community, and we work with that transition as well. The kids coming to this home are coming to us because they're hurt, not because they're bad. They're hurt, they're not broken. The trauma and effects of the trauma are healable given the right circumstances. This beautiful setting on this property is the beginning of those right circumstances. We believe that we've met all the standards and stipulations as noted in the staff report for this conditional use permit, and we believe we will be good neighbors. We'll help maintain a strong, beautiful farming neighborhood, and we thank you for your support.
Now we are in the,
Did you have questions?
oh,
Do you have questions?
any questions? Mike?
I have a question about the intent on the farm land that you have. Are you going to lease that farm out, and what crops are you growing on there presently?
Yeah, well, we don't own it presently, but it's egg, sorry. My nerves have suddenly kicked in now that I'm done. Alfalfa on the farm right now, and it has been leased out recently. So we intend to continue to lease the same piece of land that's been this section here. And then this part over here has been as well. So,
Okay, great, thanks.
yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, if there's no more questions, we are going to move to the public testimony. We want to hear from people in favor of it first. Neutral and against will be after. Go ahead, come up.
My name is Terry Sharp. I live at 2603 Willowbrook Avenue in Richland. I am on Muir Ministries Board of Directors. I'm a volunteer, and I'm also the chairman of the property team. Tonight, I do want to address some of the questions that people have had on the security and the safety of the neighborhood. And I'm going to gloss over some of it because staff did a really good job of pointing out some of what I have written down here. So there were some individuals writing letters of opposition that questioned the safety of the area. And by talking to the area residents, we also realized that the term security can mean different things to different people. So we adopted the word security to describe our safety measures because that is the word that is used by the state licensing agency, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. Have specific security requirements, and staff did go over those. We are determined by them as a non-secured residence, which does mean that we don't have to receive court-ordered use. What that also means to us, because some of these girls do have severe issues, we make our own determination concerning the suitability of a girl in our program. Her issues are part of what would determine that. But another thing is these girls will have to meld together as a family. And so we will also consider that part of the girl's life in choosing the girls that will enter this program. We are also required to take security measures that discourage the limits or the likelihood of resident youth running away. We will do all of that. But in Muir Ministries, we strive for absolute excellence when it comes to how we work with these girls. And so that bare minimum requirement will be our starting point. Some of the things for security and for safety, these girls will not be leaving the premises to travel to area schools. They will receive their education online with tutors that will aid in their learning. They will not be, like I said, leaving the site for that. There will also be no guests and no family meetings on site. All visitations will take place at our outreach center or another appropriate off-site location. When outside, the girls will always have a staff member accompanying them. All staff and volunteers that work there will be interviewed. They will have passed a background check. They'll be fully vetted, and they also will have received intensive training. The public's knowledge of this home is limited to those who by necessity have been informed of our CUP. There are no advertisements by Muir Ministries. There are no signs by Muir Ministries. We are driven to ensure that our girls feel safe. So some of the security measures are for that purpose only, for them to feel safe. Similar to the security items that many of us use in our own homes, such as locking our doors at night. We may live in a very safe neighborhood and never need to lock those doors. But it gives us an assurance that we're safe, and so we sleep better. In addition, all doors and windows that open will have sensors connected to the security system that will alarm when the system is activated. And there are other security, much more that I won't go into, but these are some of the common sense things and some of the things that the neighborhood can be assured of. So the girls that live here could be your neighbor. They could be your child's classmate. They could be your relative. Our girls are not criminals. They are the victims of crime, and so there is truly nothing to fear from them. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
You want me to start?
What's that? Oh. You
My name is Terry Blankenship. My address is 1612 Cicely Lane, Richland. I am in support of this project. I am a retired commercial real estate broker. My first home was in the Tri-Cities in 1949, so I've been here 72 years. I've done commercial developments, residential building, and I've been involved with many CUPs over the years that I owned a commercial real estate company. One of the items I want to talk to is the Franklin County Court of Ordinances and how it relates to this project. Section 1710 is the section that deals with AP 20 zone property. One of the things that Mr. Brayton already talked about is that if you have a farm in AP 20 zoning, you can have up to 4 residences on the property for families or for permanent hired help, and that's without a public hearing. That's allowed by the zoning ordinance without having a public hearing. We only want 3 residences, and we have a public hearing to request that. Section 1710-40-0 allows 5 or more dwellings in AP 20 zoning for hired help with the approval of a conditional use permit. I want you to note that there's no limit on how many you can have. It just says 5 or more. And so again, we're only asking for 3 residences. Again, in the ordinances, 1710-40-C allows specifically for group homes or therapeutic centers. So the Franklin County Code of Ordinances already identifies that a group home can go into an AP 20 if there's with the approval of the CUP. So the ordinances support this project. Second thing I want to talk about is something that's mostly been covered, and I'll try not to cover anything twice, but we have to be licensed by the state of Washington, and the state only requires 1 on-site staff person for 6 youth, and we will have at least 2 on-site people for each of the 6 youth. Some of the other items have already been covered in that area. Of the 46 comments, there were 4 that were negative, and I've reviewed those, and there are 3 specific items that are included in almost all of those 4. One is that the area is intended for farming, and Mere Ministries is not going to farm the property. You've already heard that that's not true. We are going to farm the property. The second is that because there won't be farming, it will devalue the property. Well, number one, we are going to be farming, but I have been involved with several CUPs, and I have seen that specific comment in every single one is my property is going to be devalued if you approve this CUP. There's no evidence been given in any of those 4 comments that the property is going to be devalued. And my experience with many CUPs that I've been involved in, I've never seen the property devalued by something that the CUP allows if it's similar to other things that are currently in that area, specifically houses in this case. I have seen it devalued if people don't take care of the property, but we are going to have state inspections, and so I don't think that there's a worry that this property is going to be devalued because of lack of maintenance of the property by Mere Ministries. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay, before the next person comes up, hang on a second.
It's just 2 pages. Just shoot, yeah.
We're gonna start calling these people by name. We have a list of everybody that wanted to speak, so we can keep them in order. Derek's gonna call them one at a time. Go ahead, Derek.
And just because you wrote doesn't mean you have to speak. Just if I call you out and you don't want to say anything or it's already been said, just go ahead and say that. Gail Ransom, sorry.
My name is Gail Ransom. I live on Dayton Road. My husband and I have farmed there for about 45 years. And I became aware of Mere Ministries, and I went to the meeting and asked questions, and I think it will be the perfect place for what's needed for these poor girls. And I would like to encourage you to ask questions, but please, it's the least we can do for these kids.
All right, just one of the drawbacks is handwriting, reading. I think this is Lori Larson? Okay. Is it Lori? Okay. Julia Hull?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Megan Murray?
Hello, my name is Megan Murray, 2895 Pauling Avenue, number 254 in Richland. I just want to speak to the excellence of the staff that would be running this facility. Mere Ministries is an exceptional organization. They have an established reputation of excellence. As Tricia has explained, they've never had a negative incident regarding security or any safety measures. They have an excellent reputation among nonprofit organizations. They're a regular beneficiary of several grants. And so I just want to reiterate, this is a truly phenomenal nonprofit, and if they did establish a home in Franklin County, it would be well received. Thank you.
Lydia Bowerly?
Yes.
Lydia Bowerly, 1001 Meadow Hills Drive, Richland. I am a licensed mental health counselor. I have a private practice in Kennewick. I also do research with survivors of sex trafficking on a national level. I consult with national and international organizations that work with victims of sex trafficking, such as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the Canadian Center for Child Protection. This is what I specialize in as a therapist. So I have several years of experience working with survivors of sex trafficking, both children and adults, in many different ways. And what I can tell you about these survivors is that it can be hard to imagine it for people who've never experienced working with survivors, and they might have ideas of what they would act like. We're always afraid of the unknown, as someone else said. But these survivors are not scary, they are scared. When you've been through this kind of trauma, the normal trauma responses that people experience are fight, flight, or freeze. When you're being sex trafficked by someone, most of the time you cannot fight them, especially if you are a child. You can also not run away. So the normal trauma reaction is to freeze. When this happens over and over, people get locked into the freeze response. That means shutting down emotionally, shutting down with their bodies, often holding defensive body positioning like this. What this means for living in close proximity to children who are survivors of this kind of trauma is that they are likely never going to approach you if they see you. They're going to be withdrawn, they're going to be isolated, they're going to be scared of you. They would probably only interact with you if someone they trusted introduced you to them. So I just wanted to share this information with people who would not be familiar with that population, to give you a little bit of a taste of what these neighbors could possibly be like. They're scared and they are seeking safety. Thank you.
I think this is Diana K. Carlson, or it's Ray Carlson. Okay. Loanne Ayers. I'm guessing Ayers.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Loanne Ayers. I've been a resident in Franklin County since, well, now it's 22 years. And I've owned a business here and been an educator, and now I'm the proud president of our local United Way. I've worked with Mere Ministries since 2016 and have always been impressed by how thoughtful they are, how encompassing of the holistic needs of survivors who've been trafficked. You know that in Washington State we are 12th in the nation in per capita trafficking rate. 12th in the nation. And here in Benton and Franklin County, we have seen a real change because of the pandemic. More kids are at home unsupervised who have had more face time with not humans, but with technology. That has created a hunger and emotional need, that's created vulnerabilities. And so we've seen more kids who have been trafficked in our own community. As been mentioned before, this might be your niece, your neighbor, your nephew, a grandchild, someone you know. And imagine being the family member who has someone who's been trafficked and being faced with how can we reclaim and help them build recovery? Is that sending them out of state? How does that add to the healing instead of trauma? As a farm girl, I always appreciated having the wide open air, the peace of being around animals, the responsibility of caring for those four-legged furries who were dependent on me. And that can create a really calming, healing atmosphere. So I really encourage your positive consideration of this CUP. Thank you.
Debbie Toner.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Toner, 464 Anthony Drive, Richland. My husband Brad and I have lived in the Tri-Cities for nearly 40 years. I'm involved as a volunteer in the work of Mere Ministries, and I support Mere Ministries' desire to build the state's first restoration home for minor victims of sex trafficking on the site in question tonight. Much of what you've heard tonight focuses on the project, Esther's Home. I'd like to briefly address the question, who are these victims? Why? Because, as was mentioned, they are our daughters, our sisters, our nieces, granddaughters, and sometimes our sons. They are our children. Many may want to believe that their child is safe from this kind of manipulation. Not true. None of us really wants to look at that darkness, but I haven't had that choice. My niece was 14 when she dropped out of high school. Who introduced her to the life as it's known? Her mother. Her mother became addicted to opioids when she was prescribed them for a work injury. Opioids turned into an expensive meth addiction. Her mother introduced her to meth and began grooming her to make money to help pay for their drugs. My niece went from dropout to meth addict, from addict to prostitution, from prostitution to porn and sex trafficking. Imagine the trauma and shame. After she was rescued the first time, 10 men, ages 19 to 72, were also arrested. She called the 31-year-old her boyfriend. After a 30-day detox, 60-day group home and counseling, she was dropped back up with her dad in the community where it all started. Facing the idea of testifying against her perpetrators and her mother in court, combined with returning to high school, was just too much. Fear overtook her. Today, she's missing again. It's been 4 months. We don't know where she is, but we do know that she's not safe. At some point, every child is asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Perhaps some of you has asked that question to a child or a grandchild. Ever heard any of them reply, I want to be a prostitute. That's my dream. A victim's trauma is unbelievably complex. Addiction is hard enough. Add abandonment, abuse, fear, and shame to that. We cannot continue to subject these victims to short-term quick fix programs that don't work. They need 24-hour wraparound care in a loving and therapeutic environment when they can call home for up to 2 years if necessary. As you've heard, there are many misconceptions involving these perpetrators as well as the victims. However, if we look at the facts, there is no reason not to build a restoration home on this property. Fear is not a basis for rational decision-making. It is the desire of Mere Ministries that Esther's Home be a good neighbor and a welcome addition to the character and values of the existing community. Thank you for supporting the development of the property for the first restoration home for minor victims of sex trafficking in the Pacific Northwest. It's the right thing to do.
Aiden Suarez. Thank you. Gary McFarland.
Good evening. Gary McFarland, 1160 Potomac Avenue, Richland, Washington, actually one of the co-founders of Mirror Ministries. I just want to address a comment on your great packet, thank you very much, on one of the dissent letters. And there's a sentence in here that says, "We understand and appreciate the need for these to be housed, fed, and rehabilitated for release into society in hopes of a normal life." I think this is some more than confusion. I think someone believes these are criminals. These girls who have been raped and tortured since probably age 5 are not criminals. They do not need to be really rehabilitated and released back into society. They need a place where they can get restored, where they can understand their value. They can become who they are meant to be. And all I'm asking you is to let these children become children again. Thank you.
First name's Murphy. Second name, the last name gives with, I think, an F. I can't.
No comment.
Okay. Sorry. Ella, and I can't read that last name. Kettle Court. Thank you. Mark Kraft.
I believe he left, sir.
Okay. Randall Freeman.
No comment.
Thank you. Cynthia McFarland.
Hi, my name's Cynthia McFarland. I live at 6208 Argent Road in Pasco. I've lived here for about 22 years. I'm a speech pathologist for over 40 years, and for the last 7 years I've devoted myself to equine animal-assisted therapies. And I know as a therapist that the brain needs support, it needs time, and it is capable of healing with the right amount of environment and therapies. And I can tell you, I have been able to witness this wonderful organization, Mirror Ministries, firsthand. We've collaborated. I've been fortunate to see their work in action and can tell you that these could be no better neighbors. And this mission is not only vital, but we should be honored to be able to have this type of organization and the work that they do in our county. It is so important in our world, and I just hope that you can support and recognize just how important having a home of restoration truly will be, because seeing how animals interact and help the healing and how an environment truly helps get you grounded. And I have witnessed just utmost and have the utmost respect for the advocates and the staff and the wonderful girls that I've seen. So I hope you can support this. Thank you.
Got a, looks like Mitchell, Orchard Road. Okay. And that's who I've got that has, because that was just Cynthia McFarland, right? Yeah, so that's it for, that has already listed. I would now ask if there's anybody else.
Is there anyone else that would like to provide any comments in favor? If not, we're going to move to neutral or against. Do we have a list for that too? So we're going to call those one at a time now.
So I've got Ted, and I know you've told me how to say your last name before because we've spoken before.
I'm Ted Shirky, I have the
Sure,
farm
that's right.
right here in this section. I'm here more for information and just to make sure that the committee doesn't give away my right to fumigate or farm my ground, because I'm within 1,800 feet of the proposed site. Just wanted to, the other question or comments that I wanted to know is why they did not use the property over there on the Dog Kennel Farm on Columbia River Road, I think it is.
That application was denied by the board after it being appealed, and so kind of the process went like this. Staff's recommendation was approval. We had a split vote, which was the first time we'd ever had that, and then it went to, there was another vote, and that recommendation ended up being for approval from the planning commission. That was appealed. Then it went through the appeal process, and the one board of county commissioners recused himself, and the other two voted no. And that's basically why.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good proposal as long as they don't change the direction and set up like a school, and then it would probably affect me, but I'm not sure how
that would go through
process.
You would know. It would go through a public process just like this. If this proposal is approved, any deviations from what is approved by, by the board, we're just staff recommends, the planning commission recommends, the board of county commissioners makes the decision. And so if there were any changes to the proposal, such as converting it to a school or something along those lines, it would go through another full-blown public comment process.
So if it continues to grow and it does that like in 5 or 10 years, then you'd have to go through this whole process again?
If it went beyond what is approved, yeah, if that was a proposal. If they were to propose that. Everybody has a right to due process. We can't say you can't propose something, whether it's going to be approved or something. That's what this whole process is about.
Okay, thanks.
Then I've got David Sorensen. He's also indicated that he's looking for information. Those are neutral, where they don't know if they're for or against. They need to hear more information to determine if to help them make the decision. So, which makes sense. So David Sorensen. That's why I'm going to them first, and then we'll do the designated opposed last.
David Sorensen, number 10 Clover Lane, which is 1 block off of Alder. Approximately, I think, 1.25 miles as the bird flies away. Like I said, I'm here for information more than anything, and perhaps you covered some of it, but with your muffled face covered, I missed quite a bit of it.
I'm
I
sorry.
want to know whether or not these girls are free to come and go.
No.
Simple yes or no.
No. According
You said no.
according to
No, he said no.
I said no, and that's based on what the my understanding on is. They agree to come, but I think Ms. McFarland should speak to it as it is her facility.
Short answer is they're always accompanied by staff, so they will never be unsupervised. Does that answer that question?
So they're not free to come and go.
They're not free to come and go, and each staff member has 6 kids they're looking after? Is that
No,
right?
minimum staffing is 2 awake staff at all time, and that's overnight. During the daytime, there's 3 or more staff at any given time. So they're always together, they're always supervised. When you ask free to come and go, I don't know if you mean on a daily basis what we're doing activities, or I want to leave this program. If they want to leave the program, we'll work with them for a safe way for them to leave, to get to a safe other option rather than our program. But anytime, as long as they're with us and a resident of the home, they're always supervised with staff.
And they can't leave.
They're not imprisoned, but they can't go without supervision.
And you're assuming that they can't split up in more ways than you have them supervised. Is that correct?
I can't guarantee every situation, just like you can't guarantee every situation in your home with your kiddos. But they're going to have far more supervision than any of our homes did. I have 4 daughters, and I could not stay awake all night, every night, to watch and supervise and talk to them as they needed or woke up with a nightmare. These kids are going to have far more supervision than any normal home because they're going to have ongoing, loving staff that's there, multiple people watching and taking care of them.
And the horse therapy, if you want to call it that. I've owned a few of those stupid critters, and they can move fast if they want to, or if you've got someone on their back egging them on. How are they going to be supervised?
The horses or the therapy?
How tall is
We
the
will-
fence? Let's start right there.
Okay, we will have trained equine therapists that work along with us to run the program, and then they will have a team with them that are caring and keeping for the horses, and the girls will have restrictions. They're gonna learn, you're gonna learn you're with this big, strong animal, that you're not gonna break rules, because you learn pretty quick with a horse, right?
So are you going to have some girls there that are going to want to go back to the life, should I say?
There's always that possibility, but these kids that are coming to us are pre-screened, and they sign a commitment that this is what they're wanting to do. If they want to leave our program, we help them leave into a safe, they're minors, so that they don't just leave. We have to either work with their family members or the state, depending on who's their regulator. I don't know how long you guys allow this, but we would love to, if you have more questions, there's plenty. You guys let me know what the restrictions are. So.
You're from Richland, right?
I currently live in Richland. I used to live in Pasco. I've lived in Kennewick, and I currently live right on the border of West Richland. So.
Why here in the farm area? Why not in Richland?
Because I don't have enough. We looked at one spot in Richland, but it was bare land that cost more than this land does, and it had no services, no facilities. We would have had to bring all of that stuff in addition. This already has a home, already has facilities there to make the spaces for them to do their schooling, to make the spaces for them for their counseling, for their indoor activity. Barn's already there for the horses, pasture land's already there. But you live out there. It's peaceful. You have more space. You live a mile from this property. From my home, within a mile, there's hundreds of homes. And there's just so much more activity going on that it's just hard for that body to calm and relax enough to get that healing that's needed. And as you were asking about kids running away, remembering what the counselor had said, these kids are scared. They're not going to be running to your homes. If they're running, it's a trigger reflex. We catch up with them and move on to the next therapeutic phase of that. But they're just scared, hurt kids.
I sympathize with what you're doing. And I agree that these kids need help, a place to go.
Yeah.
Is there a religious bent to this education?
To the
Like
education?
a group think type?
We are a Christian organization, Mirror Ministries is, and kids who sign up to come to our program know that, but we never force religion, because as Christians, we don't believe you can force someone into the faith. So it's just who we are, what we do, and why we do it. We love others because we've been loved so much, so.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Dennis Weiss, or is it Weissy?
Ted said everything I need.
Okay. But is it Weissy or Weiss?
Wise.
Wise, okay, thank you. Donna, the Brown?
No.
No comment. It's already been said.
Okay. Jerry Dean?
Right here. Want me to stand up there?
If
Yes.
you would,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like, that mic's not gonna help, but
What it does is it picks it up for the
camera
online,
can see me, huh?
Yeah, so they can see you.
Whoa.
more so we can hear you.
I wasn't gonna speak on Mirror Mission's goal, their lofty goal. We all wish these kids the best of luck. I've actually spoken with somebody at Mirror Ministries and says, I don't agree with your looking at this property out here in the middle of nowhere, because it's going to scare these kids being out in the middle of nowhere. They're used to an environment where lots of noise going on, and I'm trying to have to stay on task here. I really think the best place, one place that they need to look at is our own judicial system. And Coyote Ridge has got several camps, they're called, that are open. The state has them open. Granted, it's a quote-unquote prison, but the coming and the going is highly regulated with state-vetted people watching the people coming and going. But I'm going to leave that for another day. On the issue with the horses, I would, you can do what you want. Like this other gentleman over here, I've been around him. You might be able to control that kid, but you're not going to control that horse. If it gets a burr under its saddle, next thing you know, you're going to be catching it somewhere between here and town, which is another reason why I don't agree with the location. At certain times of the year, you're not going to be able to get there, okay? The county is not equipped with a heavy snowfall like we've had I think it was the last 2 years ago. They physically can't plow that road. The road graders don't have chains, so there's not, these guys that live out there know that that's basically inaccessible. So all your people that are coming and going, and I don't know if these children have people coming to visit. If they do, that's great. I think it's a wonderful thing, but who's going to maintain that road? Alder Road. It's already overused with just the people that are on it. I did see that the county, the road said it wouldn't be any large impact. I don't think that they're realizing how many more people with the staff coming and going all the hours of the day. Now I'm going to move on to something else. Who pays for this? Are these kids wards of the state? Is the state of Washington paying for this, or is this all Mission Ministries? And that's where I'm going to come from the farming aspect. Who's suing me when I fumigate and one of these kids gets sick? They live right there. Who's suing me? Is the great state of Washington? Is it going to be Mission Ministries? One of these kids that's out here, they think this is a great thing to be out in the country. This is not that great a thing. We have to, on fumigation, we all have to coordinate that. They may have to leave in order for me to fumigate if I'm redding his ground. Just something to consider. This is a great utopia. I think it's a wonderful thing having these kids out there, but I've told this young lady before, growing up, my mother and father had foster children, back in the day, that's what we did. We had families that took children. We had girls in our family. There was 3 of us young boys, and I didn't know why my folks had these kids. We were just Catholics, right? We didn't. There was only one sister, and we've had this influx of these girls coming and going for years. Me growing up, and I remember a lot of them were, for whatever reason, we never knew why they were us boys, just young boys. But 2 of them stayed, and they went on to go into society, like this young lady said. They want them to mature into society. Well, my foster sisters, the ones that stayed were Jan and Pam. They went to public school and to transition into society. I think it's a goal that's, I don't want to say it's unattainable, because I don't want to throw water on your guys' fire here, but it looks to me like they're just going to continue to be wards of the state. They don't have friends and lofty goals. I don't know. I hope the best for you guys. I really do. But this piece of property out here is not your answer. And these horses could be the bane of some of these children. You know, a horse takes 24 hours a day care also. And sometimes it's a lot more intense than it is 6 children or 12 children, or I don't remember what number we got up to. There was like 3 different groups of step 1, step 2, step 3. You know, it's anyway, that's all I got. Hope the best for everybody.
Did I ask for Barrett Thomason?
That's
I
no
did.
comment.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. That's everybody I've got on the list. Is there?
I just have a question. When I ask who's going to sue me, is this thing state funded? Nobody answered that.
It's a
There's no state money in this.
Mayor Ministries is a nonprofit, so it's a licensed nonprofit by the state. My guess is, and again, they would speak to that better than I.
Okay, I have a question. If one of these children gets sick from fumigation, I don't even know if you guys know what fumigation is, but it's killing bugs in a really tough way. If one of the girls gets sick, who's coming after me?
Hey, sir, this is actually a land use issue.
How
How they're funding it, everything else like that is not.
Okay, because I'm sorry, there was other questions like that, and they were answering those early on. I'm sorry.
And we've let it go for a little bit, but.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I'm past my 5 minutes.
I'm not being.
Thank you. No, you're fine.
Do you have something to say?
We get a chance to follow up on those questions real quick, yes?
Just quick.
Real quick. The fumigation question has come up a couple of times. I do think Derek addressed that well. We know we're in a right to farm place. That's the goal and the idea. We also do not fall in the category of the school or nursing home type of category. We are a residential, individual residentials. So that's not an issue. They have the right to farm. We have the right to farm. We love our farmers. We love our crops. My brother-in-law is a potato farmer. We do know what fumigation is, and we know we need to work around those things. Our nearest neighbor is a butcher with all the livestock out there. We've already talked with them. We know, yeah, it might be traumatizing for the girls when it's goat butchering day. It's probably a good day for us to go on a field trip somewhere. We will work and adjust to the farm community because it is a farm community. We will not have visitors on site. That question came up. Visitations will be somewhere off-site at other safe locations. And as far as the funding goes, we are community supported. Girls are fully scholarshiped. We don't have state funds. And I don't intend anybody to be suing anyone. So, and I would just ask that we have been doing this for over 10 years. Founders have been working on this for over 10 years. Mirror Ministries itself for over 7 years. And just trust us in the fact that we're not, the experts, but we're in the room. We are the experts on the care and keeping of these kids. We've been doing it for all this time. Community-based, we've been researching it for the 10 years. we do have some idea of what we're doing, and we're trying to do the very best of it. So thank you for your time. Any other questions from the Commissioner Planning? No? Thank
Good.
you.
That's it for comments, right?
Yes.
Derek? Does staff have any final comments?
No.
Is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience?
I think we've been kind of doing that as we went.
The public testimony of this public hearing, CUP 2021-13, is closed.
Hold on, we do have a question here. Yes, sir.
I've just got a question, and it revolves around the money and the Mirror Ministries issue. What's that doing for taxes? Do these 401c3Cs, do they pay taxes like I do?
I'm not a tax guy.
I'm not either.
Generally, no, they don't have the same tax burden. But I don't know the specific, again, finances is outside of our purview, how all of that stuff plays out. We're talking whether or not the use can be made compatible.
So we don't know if Mirror Ministries pays property taxes or any of that stuff. It's just
I don't get into an applicant's financials, just like I would into farmer's financials if he wanted to subdivide his property. That's not our purview.
I just didn't know if I'm going to have to come up with any extra at the end of the year because somebody else isn't paying.
That's all. I think our numbers are pretty good this year in Franklin County. We got tax revenue.
This year, yeah.
Okay, public testimony is closed. Is there any discussion among the Planning Commission prior to entering a motion?
Yeah, I got some questions. So this is 20 acres. And according to the county rules, this is permitted on 20 acres, correct? Can you speak up in this zone?
You talking about the houses or the different structures?
Because we've referred
You've got
referred to this as farming, you know, and farming can have a lot of different houses. But
Yes.
kind of a setting.
And that's what has triggered the CUP process, basically. Because, yeah, when you look at the property, you're not necessarily going to know what's going on, but the facts are the multi-unit structure accommodation in the county is for family or permanent hired help, which this doesn't quite, this is not that. These are not family or permanent hired help. So right there, it starts making it a little different, and that's why we have the CUP applying to this. Because on the outside, it may look like everything else, but there's a specific use, and it's a public use. It's not a private use. So that's why we go through this process. So yes, generally speaking, on a 20-acre lot, if you have an active farm, you're able to accommodate up to 4 family members or permanent hired help in individual structures. Also, though, under that circumstance, those are detached accessory dwelling units. They are limited to 1,600 square foot of living space. So again, however, you can go to the board or request a modification or a deviation from that limitation through a conditional use permit process. So again, they're following a process so it's, like I said, so it is more of and in my opinion, it should be looked at as far as almost like you've got 3 potentially up to, and what we're looking at is the approval so when you're looking and making your decision, you want to look at the full build-out potential, and how that would relate to everything, not what we have today, but what it's going to look like, and kind of, is that okay, and then, but there are differences, and that's why, because again, Mirror Ministries could have bought the house and just started on phase 1 and that would have been administratively approved, and they could be operating out there for years, and it wouldn't be until they moved into phase 2 that they would require a conditional use permit. So Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason for asking the question is the same thing Linda brought up earlier, was this, if this goes away in 5 years, what, now we have this 20 acres out there that is,
Yeah.
different than farming, it was a group home.
Yeah.
Now what do we do with it other than to quote unquote subdivide it?
And that's also the case with churches. It's also the case with, say, boarding schools or whatnot. I know that there's been a couple of those in the county at least, or at least one. But like a church, same thing. Flock could go away. Now you got a big church structure. There's usually somebody out there that has an interest, but it could sit for a long time. Because, I mean, look at big boxes when they get vacated. They'll sit for decades sometimes. But so that's why we're here. That's why this is being done as in staff believes that it should be a conditional use permit, not an administrative process. And also the applicant want to be open and honest with the community. That's what they've indicated to me. And that's why they're doing it this way as opposed to doing phase one and then surprise, here we are. So.
Any more questions?
I got a question. So that one on in AP zoning, AP 20 zoning, is this lot size for the land size, minimum 20 acres?
Unless you do an innovative short plat, but yeah.
Okay, so it's a minimum 20 acres. It sets it up, right? I mean, if it was 19 or 18, it wouldn't qualify in AP.
No. Well, it would be an approved non-conforming lot if it were 19 acres or less, or less than 20 acres. Unless it was subdivided. Go ahead.
More than, it could be 100 acres.
Yeah.
But it has to be, I just thought it had to be a minimum of 20.
That's for what they call a record of survey, or where you just go out there and cut off 20 acres. Or if you were to do subdivisions or whatnot, they have to be, unless you're going through the innovative short plat process, where you, for every one parcel created, you reserve 20 acres, but that's a different animal. They do not have the land to do a short plat on that property.
Right.
Because for each of those lots, let's say they were to take the existing house, it stays, and then 2 and 3, they will look to do an innovative short plat. Well, for each of those acres, they've got to have 20 acres in reserved farmland that they either own or can get a commitment, through an actual recorded deed commitment that, farmer A has set aside 20 acres of parcel whatever for these lots. So, I mean, I can't say that it could never happen, but it'd be a pretty...
That's that 20 acres in reserve that kind of initiated my question.
Yeah, so basically, I don't want to talk in absolutes because of the potentiality, if they knew somebody or they bought a bunch of land or whatever, if they could potentially seg off those units, but the odds of that are pretty low because the property is at its minimum for the zoning. It cannot be further subdivided unless that happens. Basically, they would need another 70 or 80 or 60 acres minimum.
Any more questions? Melinda, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you. If there's no more questions, I would like to entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I move to forward CUP 2021-13 to the Board of Commissioners with a positive recommendation based on the 6 findings of fact and 16 suggested conditions of approval.
Second. It has been moved by Commissioner Didier and seconded by Commissioner Corrales that we forward the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for CUP 2021-13 with the 6 adopted findings of fact and 16 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion?
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Who seconded it?
Yeah, it was you? Okay.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Commissioner Mike Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner Leighton Lowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mike Corrales.
Yes.
The motion has been carried.
Okay, motion has been approved. Item number 2.
Thank you all.
You bet. We're going to take a, what, 10? 5-minute
Understanding on how all that works, so I'm just
Okay, we're going to move on to item 2, is a public hearing for file ZC 2021-1, a proposal for a zoning designation change of 3 properties comprising approximately 13.19 acres from agricultural production to rural community. I declare the public hearing for CZ 2021-1 to be open at 8:22. May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. This is, as mentioned, ZC 2021, zone related to request by Frank Clifford and Marilyn Eby. That is how you say your last name.
Yep, yes.
So there's a request to change the zoning designation of 3 parcels comprising approximately 13.19 acres in agricultural production, 20 to rural community 1. Parcel numbers are as listed. Only parcel 126201164 has an address, and there is also currently a resident on that property. Site, meaning all 3 properties, is centrally located in Section 13, Township 10, North, Range 28. The parcels 126201164 and 126200011 are bounded by Columbia River Road to the south. I realized in the staff report I said unnamed. I realized after the fact that it's Elm Drive, which I should have known. Parcel 126190345 is located east of Virtue Drive. I'd say maybe about 800 feet, if that. And it is bounded by Columbia River Road to the northeast. There's so it's these 3 properties. The Zebes, and these are the 3 Cliffords. Parcels 13.9, the request is to rezone the entirety of those 3 properties. Comp plan designated rural shoreline development. It is outside city. UGA, current zone is AB20. No critical areas. Request for a zone change. And at this point, due to the fact that there's no development proposed at this time, termination of non-significant ENS.
Derek, this is Melinda Didier. I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, and there seems to be some background.
Oh. Okay. How is that better?
Much better.
Well, I just woo. There's no light on my mic, so now there is.
Oh.
Thanks to the. So before us, we see this is 6900 or parcel 164. That's already has a house on it. So those are just shots. These are from the assessor's records. And then, even though this is actually just for, if I remember right, parcel 164, it's pretty much what 118 looks like, and the rest of the other parcel. They're all in orchard. I don't know exactly what fruit, but
Cherries.
it is cherries. Okay, I didn't want to misguess on that, but as mentioned, it's AP20 is the current zoning. Properties are surrounded by land zone RC5 to the north, RC1 to the west and south, and AP20 to the east. Minimum lot size for the current zoning is 20 acres with limited exceptions, basically an innovative short plat process. While the minimum lot size for the proposed zoning district is RC1 is 1 acre. Yeah, I'm getting tired too because I'm starting to slow down. The proposed rezone is consistent with the comp plan designation of rural shoreline. It allows for and envisions lots down to 1 acre, even potentially RS20, though not out that far. A rezone will allow for a more intensive use of the land because currently it's 1 residential unit per lot out there, even though none of the lots are actually 20 acres, but they would each have a right to 1. This breakdown would allow for three lots on 2 of the properties and up to just, 5 on the south property. So the 2 north ones are 3 point something. I'll get into that. It was in the staff report, the actual literal lot breakdowns. So this will kind of see, it actually becomes more restrictive on the uses. Permitted uses are limited to 3 permitted uses on RC1, whereas AP20 has 6 permitted uses. Then when it comes to conditional uses, there's only 10 permitted in the RC1. This, of course, is not including unclassified uses, just the listed uses, as opposed to 25 conditional uses potentially allowed in the AP20 zone. And then AP20 allows for power plants, pumping stations, and commercial kennels, as well as everything that's permitted in the RC1 zone. So it's more of an industrial type of use is permitted. RC1 is focused towards large lot residential development. It's consistent with the surrounding area. So all around there, like I had already mentioned, RC1 to the south, well, those are generally 1 acre lots with 1 residence per lot. I'm not going to read all of these things, but basically it meets the intent of the RC1 district, single-family resident, large lots in a rural setting. It meets the requirements of rural shoreline development, underlying comprehensive plan land use designation, which tells us that the intent for this area is to be developed into 1 acre lots or 5 acre lots, or if services are available, potentially RS20, but that's almost, well, like I said, not in this area. There's no other services that you would need to get to the RS20 standard. It's also a LAMERD, or a local area of more intense rural development, known as the Columbia River West area, and that's that whole area basically between the Essequattle Canal, I think that's the canal that's there, and the Columbia River, that whole, and then south of Sagemore. So from the city north, south of Sagemore, this is rough, but Essequattle Canal and Columbia River, this whole area is envisioned by the county through the multiple comp plans to be developed into 1 acre or similar single-family residential lots. We received no public comments regarding this proposal. In fact, we received kind of skimpy agency comments even. I mean, we just didn't really get much back on this one, which is not necessarily unusual with a zone change because it's really at the time of subdivision that the agencies start to get really excited, usually. So, these are the comments that we got. The Skibbit is a little, doesn't care, but they've got to make sure that if they go and subdivide in the future, that they don't mess around or screw up their systems. Didn't get anything in Bureau. And then Benton Franklin Health District just stated has no objection to the zone. Again, they'll get more involved if the properties are further subdivided. According to the code, this is your duty. You're requested to render a recommendation. In this case, while I'm on that subject, this is one of the items, zone changes, subdivisions, code text changes, there's a couple other items out there, require a majority of the membership, which means a recommendation requires 4 votes of the planning commission on a zone change. So just as a reminder on that. Whereas the conditional use permit only required 3. So, but the bylaws call that out.
We have 4, is that what you're saying? All right, on CUP?
On a CUP, currently, yes, our membership is at 5. We have 2 vacancies.
Oh, so you need 3. You need 3 votes on a CUP.
Well, and a quorum is 4. So you'll always need a minimum of 3 votes for a recommendation on a CUP. However, subdivisions, zone changes, comp plan changes, text changes, there's, like I said, a few other things will require 4. So basically the full quorum if you've got only 4. So if the planning commission wishes to forward a positive recommendation, these are the recommended findings of fact, such that it's in accordance. I think I've said that a few times. The effect of the proposal will not be material detrimental. It's consistent with the surrounding area. It's similar to the zoning on, what is it, 3 sides, I think? 2 sides, yeah. And currently, the 3 properties aren't actually the minimum lot size for an AP20 zone. So, and 2 are less than 5 acres, so it doesn't make any sense to convert it, say, to RC5 because, well, there's not even 1 lot for 2 of them. One the EV parcel would squeak out 1 lot plus, but there is merit and value in the proposal for the community as a whole. Again, it implements the comp plan. And then, we need to try to do what we can to develop a full range of housing, and this allows for the potentiality of additional single-family 1-acre lots in the future. Conditions are required to be imposed in order to mitigate any significant adverse impact from the proposal, and a concomitant agreement between the county and the petitioner, otherwise known as a developer's agreement, is not required for this proposal or this application. Future development on the site shall comply with the county development regulations, but not limited to Title 16, Title 17, Title 18. Future development on this site shall comply with local, state, and federal agency standards. Roads and access. Future development site shall be evaluated for the following. Any new lots that may be created will require access, and that require access shall be subject to the county road approach policy. And any mitigation fees required will be determined on the development of the property and go towards the future road upgrades as development continues to grow in the area. So what happens with that is basically if they just drop 1 house on each lot, probably not going to see much. However, if they subdivide the area into, say, 10 lots, then there's likely to be a impact to the road system. Each of those lots at the time of development would be required to pay a proportionate share to that impact on the road. And staff's recommendation is as follows, that this is the recommended motion. We do recommend approval. I didn't say that.
Okay. Does any commissioner have questions of staff? Nothing. Does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
No public testimony? Nope.
Nope.
Does staff have any final comments?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? No. The public testimony of this portion for public hearing ZC 2021-1 is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the planning commissioners prior to entertaining a motion? You can still hear us, Mindy?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay.
One thing, that, I live out there, I know, I mean, to me it's a no-brainer, but what I'm saying is that road comes down and makes that curve with that Columbia River Road. I just wondered that someday they put some sort of barricade or something around that corner as this, you know, as this increases in intensity, or at least something, because I'm thinking, somebody's going to go flying off that thing someday and land on the roof of the house down below it. You know,
Now I know what you're talking about, when you said that. Okay.
I've been down there 1,000, every night I go home that way, and I don't know, to me it's nuts.
We'll get there. The primary purpose as provided by the applicant regarding this is to allow for subdivision, then to lop off property for the family.
That's one way to do more houses you got, the faster.
Yeah, I go, I see it and everything else, but whatever.
Did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. It was about the roadway. I've called into the road commission and talked to them, and it is already 45 miles an hour, but it's a sign underneath the curb sign about this big. And I said, why can't we put a full-size slow down 45 mile an hour? When we're picking cherries and working across that road, we put the truck crossing signs up and everything. People still go through there at 60 and 70 miles an hour all the time.
So there's a non-standard speed limit sign out there?
It's just a little tiny one on the bottom of the curve, and I've talked to them, and they said, no, that's all that it calls for. And they wouldn't put up a bigger sign. And now we have deer that cross that road. I've hauled off, 2 this season? They got hit, 3 last year.
Deer like cherry and grass.
Yeah. But and we've had how many wrecks there?
Oh.
They took our power out once. They took that main pole completely down. We had power loss for almost 2 days.
Okay.
Someday
it needs to slow down.
Flying off that thing, and I mean, you're going to land on the roof. I remember when they used to go to the end of Arkin, it didn't stop.
Right on going out the same.
Clapper's house, and I ran into the side of it a few times. Anyway.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the motion CZ 2021-01 of the Board of Commissioners for positive recommendation with 5 findings of fact and 3 conditions of approval as provided for the staff report.
I second that.
Commissioner Lowe has moved and Commissioner Vincent has seconded to be forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for ZC 2021-1 with the 5 adopted findings of fact and 3 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Melinda Vidia.
Yes.
Commissioner Mike Vincent.
Yes.
Commissioner Leighton Lowe.
Yes.
Mike Corrales.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the motion has passed.
Motion's approved. Okay, no workshop, future comp plan appeal update.
Yeah, okay. I'll
Keep it
make
tight.
this as quick as possible. So we had the, what's known as the hearing on the merits, where basically you go and, so, as you are aware, we passed the comp plan, approved on June 1st, FutureWise then appealed it, stating that I didn't do the SEPA right. We de-designated a bunch of ag land, which we didn't. They're confused, but because of the way the 2008 comp plan was written, they found an opening, so they went for it. That's my opinion of the situation. They they keep insisting that Franklin Crops that showed up in the 2008 is a commercial ag lands of long-term commercial significance, when actually we believe, even though we can't really confirm it because none of us were there in '08, none of us working on the comp plan, that Franklin Crops was merely a designator to say, these are commercial farming activities in Franklin County, which is why it's called Franklin Crops, not Franklin Soil. And that we were acknowledging that there's commercial activities, but they were not determined or chosen by the county through its public process to be designated as ag lands of long-term commercial significance. So, everything rests on that differential. As far as their suit, they actually brought 3 items. But anyway, so that happened on Monday. Yeah, yesterday. Everybody in the world was having hearings yesterday. I don't know what that was all about, but so there was that. And we'll hear, so what that is, the hearing on the merits is where both sides present their case orally. And they'll make their determination and give us an answer by February 1st, if not before, but probably around February 1st. As to what next steps are, is we won't know until we get that position. And then we'll make an assessment at that time as to whether we're happy with it, we want to move on, or appeal it. We'll see, and the other side, of course, will have that opportunity as well. Any questions on that? I was going to say, if there is, give me a call, because it can get really rabbit trails, and I mean, it's an adventure. So we right now do not have anything scheduled for January, because we didn't get applications that would trigger that. So there's no meeting proposed right now for January. However, there's a couple administrative things that we need to deal with. We need to get all that work that was done, and we all looked at, but we never voted on the updated bylaw, the adoption. We never actually voted on whether to do it. We just had a couple workshops and discussions, but we never actually did the formal vote. So that's one thing that we need to do. And if you somehow missed my email or been hiding under a rock or something, we've had 2 resignations. Claude and Kent both resigned. So we're out. We've advertised for Claude. I just got confirmation from Kent when I sent out that some email a bit back. I think it was reminding you that it was the 14th, not the 7th. That he's moving to Texas, so he's done. So need applicants that live in the Star School District. What is that? It's the
Snake River
area. Star District area, basically Claude's area. And then we also need, Kent came out of the Riverview area, didn't he? Yeah, Pasco UGA.
In that area?
Yes.
So, when I asked Rebecca today, that Kent's area, what is it?
Yeah, what, I don't know either. Does it go out to like the Birch? What's that development on Birch?
It's the entire UGA Pasco area.
It goes
if I
to there?
remember right. It's the city, it's the UGA. I'd have to get the map.
Because I got a guy that's interested in that one.
Does he live in that area?
He lives on Road 64.
He should qualify.
How far out does that?
Well, it's not Birch, because I live on Birch.
And that's, okay, so that's too far out, is what you're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is West Pasco.
Right.
So you're, and urban growth boundary, you said?
It's in the
Okay,
UGA.
okay.
It's basically, but you gotta remember, the city of Pasco is the UGA. Everybody forgets the cities are urban growth areas.
Right.
So, it's from the urban growth area border south.
Yes.
So it includes people that live in the city of Pasco, because people that live in the city of Pasco are also
In Franklin County.
Franklin County residents. And remember, all we do is make a recommendation. The board would actually make the final decision on that applicant. But what I need are applications from people in that area. Yeah, have them come in. The board can figure it out, you know, as to whether that's good or what, you know. Technically, they're supposed to find them and appoint them, He did serve a long time. I don't remember, but it was decades, if I remember right.
Well,
Multiples.
I started here, and I've been here for 26 years, and he's been,
He was already
he
on?
was already on.
You know why he quit?
Oh, really?
Masks.
Oh, yeah, I thought about it.
Just remember, we're just you know, we gotta just do what they tell us to do, whether we agree with it or not. You guys are volunteers.
I seriously thought about it.
I appreciate the fact you didn't, because that would have shut down the county. Basically, would shut down the county if we lose 2 more people. If we'd only have 3, we don't have a quorum, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So I appreciate you. You're not the only one who's doing this, because we have to do it, so. I mean, I'm fully vaxxed and everything. I'm still having
Let's not get into that discussion.
Okay, so that's it?
So are we gonna have to do new elections with Bob gone?
Yep.
When do we do that?
That's what, I don't know, do you want to get together in January and just take care of those administrative items and just not get them out of the way? Or do you want to stack them on when we've got some sort of?
We do it when we have our next meeting?
So the next
Can we do elections now? Get it over with?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're here.
Yeah.
Again, guys, you gotta remember,
Get her done.
you run the show.
So-
I'm just staff, so you just tell me what you want to do.
We will not have a meeting in January.
Okay,
Is that what you're saying? There's nothing on the agenda?
no, I say we have no items.
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
We can't, anybody that submits it, no.
So what do we got to do to do this?
All we would have is administrative items, just for a
No.
workshop.
No. Okay, what do we got to do?
Okay, I wasn't really expecting you to. So the process, from what I recall, is you would, whoever's interested would let it be known, and/or somebody can recommend somebody, and then that person either has to accept or deny the recommendation. And then
I
we
can
vote.
start it off for you if you want me to.
Sure.
Derek? I move to nominate Mike Corrales as chair of Franklin County Planning Commission.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. You can hit me later.
All right, so we have a first and a second on a nominee. That would call for a vote.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations? Good.
And I don't know if this is the right place to interject this, but we have to elect a vice also, don't we?
Yes, we
Okay,
will.
so never mind. So go get, vote.
So if he gets it, he's never gonna show up in that meeting.
Don't give him that.
Is it just a aye vote or a roll call? All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody said yes.
Aye.
Okay.
I just heard.
All opposed? Okay, passes.
All right,
Now we have to nominate a vice chair.
so, yep.
I will nominate Melinda.
Second.
Oh, man.
Means you gotta show up to all the meetings.
Yeah.
I'm here.
All in favor of Melinda as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Melinda,
Did you accept that nomination?
Yes, I
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
I'll be in
Okay.
trouble if I don't.
Then I think some folks might know where you live.
Melinda is elected.
Is that the 2 spots? That's it, isn't it?
Those are the only elected
Treasurer and
spots.
Sergeant of Arms.
Meeting adjourned.